Welcome all of you risk takers and truth seekers to the podcast Life the Battlefield. And today episode we're going to talk about agent with the code name Cicero. Now, before we dig deep into this episode and we explain who was a Cicero in terms of being a spy, I'd like to share something with you. This agent has been not mentioned very often, and the very simple reason for that is following. Cicero was a spy for Germans in Second World War. However, the biggest failure was on behalf of the British MI5, MI6, MI7. Why is that? The Cicero was not just ordinary agent. He was a very stupid agent. He was non-educated agent, and he was an ex-criminal who saw opportunity. And that being said, in today's episode, we're going to talk about Cicero, who done such a damage and showed the stupidity. However, the British intelligence and counterintelligence services underestimated the potential the one man can have. Greed for the money and not being educated, you cross him off the list as a potential spy. Now, I want to share something with you at the beginning. In my monograph, The Informant and the Whistleblower Management Plan, I utilize my knowledge and experience in explaining why somebody becomes a spy or what elements you're using to instigate somebody to become the spy, or better say, the informant. That's a very distinguished difference, spy and informant. Everybody who provides information for somebody is the informant. There is no spies. Spies are operatives and the people who's organizing the informant network. But let's go come back. So in my monograph, The Corporate Informant and Whistleblower Management Plan, one of the motives why somebody becomes a spy is economics. And what I wrote about this one, corruptibility as a motive in which informants or whistleblowers will keep exchanging increasingly valuable information for increased monetary gain. And undoubtedly, poor and often malicious motive that usually results badly for both sides. Now, as well, let me explain to you MICE technology. MICE methodology, it's money, ideology, compromise, and ego. And one of the elements some intelligence agency will apply to recruit somebody is the money. And money is a major motivator for informants, but less motivating factor for whistleblowers. Identifying potential informants includes assessing their financial health. If they are carrying more debt than they can service or have difficulty managing money, then using the prospect of financial payment will prove a successful lure. Now, as I promised at the beginning, topic close to my heart, human intelligence. Today we're talking about Cicero, Nazi agent Cicero. And as I said at the beginning, Cicero was not just any agent. He was uneducated, ex-criminal. He didn't know how to read. But let's go dig into this topic. Stories about spies tend to be hazy and only partially explained, which is why they inspire the imagination. You have the impression that every story has a secret element, and you hope you'll discover while reading. The same is true of this tale. Agent Cicero is regarded by some of the most costly and foolish spy of all time. His real name was Elyesa Bazna. Cicero was born in a family of Arnauts in Pristina in 1904. Pristina, to the capital city of the Kosovo. His family traveled from Macedonia to Istanbul to Ankara, where he was a young boy. Cicero was born as a member of the lowest class, known in the Turkish Empire as a fukara. And he did not put up with that. He didn't like it at all. Bazna claims at the outset of his autobiography that he is direct descendant of the certain heroic Tahir Pasha. Now, that's questionable. He was a young petty thief who, after the First World War, stole motorcycle and revolver from who? From the French occupation forces. He was found guilty and transferred to France to complete his sentence. Of course, he picked up some French language there, which later assisted him in getting what else a better job and avoiding theft. He started out as a servant at the Yugoslavian embassy. And because diplomats seems to love and appreciate sycophants and several people by nature, he advanced in the service by moving from embassy to embassy until somewhere in the middle of the Second World War, he was hired by the British ambassador, Sir of Hughe, Knatchbull-Hugessen. No due diligence being done on Cicero or Bazna. Bazna once came across a document that stated top secret while cleaning room. Now, I used to work in diplomatic intelligence service. That's how I come to Australia. And I never saw my ambassador was carrying any documents with those type of statute, top secret. He never carried the documents with any titles, with any classified documents stating as a top secret or something else. Now, imagine Second World War. Bazna comes across this document and says top secret. It's two words, obviously, with a red stamp on the top, right corner, left corner, middle. And of course, he knew it. This is something very important. But ask yourself, why this document has been at his perusal? Bazna sensed opportunity in that. He decides to go into spying. What else? He saw the documents. So now he knows it has a valuable document, sees the dollar sign, any other type of monetary, and he's going into spying. The fact that then German ambassador to Turkey was a Franz von Papen, a man with an exceptional curriculum, a former chancellor, high aristocrat, Knight of Malta, Pope Squire, head of the German spy service in America in the First World War, Lieutenant Colonel. In short, a medical man confirms that the varying parties carefully selected their diplomats in the capitals of neutral nations. I want you to understand this. Espionage centers. There is a video here about hotel in the center of Europe in Second World War, where the most spies are met, spying on each other. People disappeared, stealing secrets from each other. And don't forget, in the Second World War, there's a few countries in vicinity of the Europe who have had a neutral status, and those capital cities become the espionage centers. Bazna, who had an interim return to his old trade as a thief, approached von Papen one day with the embassy first secretary. He presented him with the images of very significant document had been taken from the British embassy. Can you imagine this? He's go directly into the embassy. Who done this as well? The guy, Robert Hansen, head of FBI counterintelligence. He goes directly to the embassy. Now, you'll think that somebody observing and doing surveillance on foreign embassies. It's difficult to understand how von Papen, who possesses all of these ranks and abilities, could naively believe some Bazna there, who he knew only to be servant, thief, that he was a locksmith by trade, and that he had previously been convicted of delinquency. He only knew Bazna to be a servant thief, so he knew it, that Bazna was a thief. However, because secret materials are rarely offered every day, von Papen's leadership was taken aback and addressed a letter to Berlin in which he explained the extraordinary offer he had received. He also told them that Bazna was so confident that he requested for £20,000 for 2 films containing documents, and that if the Germans did not make up their minds by this and that day, he will sell these images to who? To Soviets for a fair more money. Berlin, that's it. Joachim von Ribbentrop, who was a Minister of Foreign Affairs, personally gave money to buy the videos without much explanation, merely stressing that one must still believe cautiously, because it's definitely true. On the designated day, Bazna, the German embassy first secretary, met on the street. They didn't meet in a hotel in some clandestine place. They met on the street. Elyesa displayed the video and stated first money and then handed over the money. The documents were convincing at the first sight. which raised suspicions. And of course, it's a Second World War. Suddenly you have the guy who was a thief, who he was being imprisoned, suddenly has documents with such a value and giving to you. Now, nothing changed since Second World War, and nothing changed till today. In the aspect of verify information, you need to verify the source information and information itself. That intelligence agencies do it very well. They even done in Second World War. That's why they're very suspicious, because quite often people will approach somebody with the idea, I'm gonna spy for you, here are original documents. They gain your trust and they can start feeding you less and less more important informations and more deceiving. In this case was with Cicero not. Cicero was giving original documents and Germans become very suspicious. The report from the Casablanca conference between Roosevelt, Churchill, and Chiang Kai-shek, for example, contained information that Anglo-Americans promised China Manchuria as soon as Japan was defeated, as well as information from the Tehran conference held in November 1943, where Roosevelt and Churchill promised all of Eastern Europe. He later gave them vital information on the Allied bombing of Romanian oil reserves. However, Bazna had no idea what was written in the stolen and smuggled documents. As I say, he's been highly underestimated. He was not an educated person. He simply removed the safe key from his pocket while taking a bath, making a wax print, made a copy, and then go through the papers and photograph them while alone at home, selling each film of 36 photos for additional £15,000. Can you imagine a Second World War what £15,000 it is? Bazna didn't work for a year because in the spring of 1944, the English discovered, via their spy in Germany, that information was leaking from the embassy in Ankara, and the spy name was Cicero. We're talking 1944. The war, Second World War, it's on its height. You have the landing in Europe, Western Europe. You have the Russians starting the operation Bagration, pushing the Germans across the Ukraine, Poland into the Germany. And suddenly you have the Germans who are spying actually for the British. Ask yourself how this information comes together. How the information being passed from the Germany, who's being occupied from all sides, being pressed, compressed, and put it into the one cane, because you have the Russians on the east, you have the Allied forces on the west, you have them on the south, they come from the Italy as well, they're being compressed into the can. How this information's coming to the British? Now, somehow this information reached the British, and they say, we know the spy name, it's a Cicero. They did not recognize Bazna as a Cicero right away because they thought that he was incapable of such a mission and that espionage was impossible without understanding English. Do you understand now how English, they look very naive in this instance? That's the reason why you can't find so much about this agent, Cicero, spy, informant, whatever you want to call him, because you have all intelligence services of the United Kingdom, England, the Commonwealth failing down, and most importantly, they did not even do diligence on him properly in the first place. And they gave him access to everything, as you know, has a keys to the safe. They were, however, mistaken. True, Bazna was interviewed, during which he, of course, denied everything. And then, while they were still perplexed, Bazna escaped from the embassy and vanished. He had very large sum of approximately £300,000 sterling in his straw bag, which would be worth $7 million today. Absolutely. That, however, is hardly to end, let alone the happy end of Cicero's story. When he eventually deposited money at the bank, he encountered annoyance. The deposit pounds were made at Third Reich, which means they were not signed by the governor of the Bank of England, but by Austrian Alps forger. So Cicero was being given all this money, which is being forged. It's a copy. It's a fraud. The Germans, they invested quite a lot of effort to make fraudulent and forged money during the Second World War. And there's a good movie about this as well. You can search for that. The Germans, they pay him in a fake money, basically. Fake money. They gave him fake money. So now you go in a bank, the bag full of money, 300,000 pounds sterling. You walk in a bank and you say, I want a deposit. But then you encounter the annoyance. This revelation explains Ribbentrop's generosity to some extent. That's what people don't see it. As a result, Cicero was left without a job and salary. So he ran from the Brits, from the embassy, and no money, no job. However, he was very creative. He didn't abandon his plan to get wealthy. After the war, he sued the Germans for fraud, requesting reparations, whined and complained, but he received no monetary compensation. After all, you're the fool. Then he wrote a memoir, I Was Cicero. Did he make the money? No. That book, he didn't make him rich either. Based on his personal experience, the film Five Fingers, made by Joseph Mankiewicz, 1952, was filmed in Hollywood and was nominated for 2 Academy Awards, although it did not make him affluent. Cicero died 1971 in Germany, without money, without job. Thank you for watching Live the Battlefield Mario. Let me know what do you think about this spy codename Cicero. He was being fooled? Yes or no? Thank you for watching.